Ready?
I'm ready.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the island. You are listening to the song entitled Blessed by our superstar guest. Woohoo! Anyway, words can't even express how thrilled I am to have this very special woman hanging out at the island. I feel like it's a full circle moment in time that I would have never imagined. Okay, she is my homegirl because we were both born in Germany.
Wow.
And we're both military brats, and we both spent time living in Korea. How unique and I know, small world, right? So I met her back in 1996 when she was in middle school in a little town called Sierra Vista, which is in Arizona. And she became quick friends with my daughter, Ashley, and they are still friends to this day. Yep. So that's so awesome. She now lives in Los Angeles, California. I know Cheryl's going to be visiting her.
Yes.
She lives in California with her husband, and we are happy to welcome her to the island to share with us and the listeners the initiative she and her husband started, not to mention a whole bunch of other things. So ladies and listeners, welcome to the island, a multi-talented singer, songwriter, musician, and a creative force, Krys Wright.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you ladies.
Yes. Awesome. And we do have a lot of history that we could go into, but we're not here for that history lesson today. But Krys, like I said, I knew her way back in the day, and she and Ashley were in choir together, and they used to hang out and play and do all kinds of stuff. And they had another friend named Ricky who had passed away, and they were like the three amigas, and it was a delight to have them at my home. And, you know, when they're young and they're growing up, you just never know, you know, especially being military, if you're ever going to see people again or talk to them again. But here we are, full circle.
Yes.
Full circle. And let's just kick this off. I want to apologize to Lady V in case it's been a very, very long time. I don't know what I said in my childhood. I don't know what I ever did, but I know I was a wild child. So just in case, let's just start fresh slate. I'm excited to be here.
I love it.
We all were wild children at one point.
Well, let me just put it to you this way, Krys. I was a semi-strict parent, and I didn't let Ashley hang out with anyone that I did not trust or I didn't feel was going to be good for her.
Okay. That means a lot to me.
Yes.
She's amazing.
Well, I think she is too.
All your kids are amazing.
Well, thank you for that. So we're going to get this party started. And I think, Cheryl, won't you get us started?
Always, you know, I like to always kick it off because that's what you give me is the first one. So I would also like to add to her list of titles, community leader. Yeah. Based on what I've read about you, Krys, is I see where you helped to start an initiative called Black Education Matters. This is an initiative that is an effort to include Black history into public school curriculum. So can you tell our listeners, why do you think it's important to include Black history into public school curriculum?
Yeah, I mean, to kick this off, you know, we all, you know, witnessed what happened during the pandemic, the racial uprising, and just quite honestly, what we've all experienced for the bulk of our entire lives as women and as Black women and as Black people in our community. And so, you know, after, you know, watching a lot of these instances with Philando Castile and Eric Gardner and, you know, Trayvon Martin, and the list goes on, my husband and I, you know, sat at the kitchen table and we're determining, you know, where we could make the most impact with our anger. And our rage about the situation. And we decided that probably education would be our best bet. You know, we started noticing a lot of the conversations we were having with people, we weren't on the same plane. The basic general understanding about the value of Black lives and just Black history as American history wasn't as understood as we just assumed it would be. So, you know, that kind of leads to, I think, a lot of the things that we see that happens in the news and what's been happening for a lot of time, that is the result of a lot of ignorance that is, unfortunately, we think it's deliberate. And so we decided to, focus our effort in an area that would be most impactful, which would be schools. We really went for the gusto when we kicked the whole thing off. We started this petition, it's Black Education Matters. That's really the name of our nonprofit organization. And it's really, the overall goal is just to build more equitable, curriculatory frameworks within public schools and education. And that leads to, lessening the school to prison pipeline, as far as the wealth to race income ratio, the wealth gap, and a lot of other inequities that exist in adult life post public school. And so, yeah, I think that if you tackle kind of the history of the Black experience and showcase that within school, you'll not only educate those who are non-Black in understanding their own American history, because we are all Americans,
Right.
but you also galvanize Black and Brown students to see themselves and to identify with stories. You can really check out if a lot of these stories that are very arbitrary, let's say like Johnny Appleseed, just happen to be white for no reason.
Right.
And so it just continues to perpetuate these images of people who don't look like you. And then we have kids who are, not engaged in school. I wonder why. And then the assumption is because they don't want to be there, they're ignorant, all these negative attributes that are attached to Black people and the Black experience, when really that we think there's not enough energy and dedication and focus that's placed on their experience and their story. So yeah, this was definitely the focus that we thought would be most impactful. We've kind of narrowed that down over time, and we're still figuring things out, but I definitely still believe that this is a directive that we should take. And I hope that we can, make a big impact.
So I just want to applaud you and your husband for taking such a bold step. Right. And a bold set of actions. And I like the fact that you took your anger and your rage and you turned it into positive action. I would like to just throw out a recommendation there. I personally went to an HBCU, a historically Black college and university, Grambling State University. And that was one of the things that was a must. We had to take Black history. What I would recommend is that maybe you all partner up with HBCUs, because they've already have the curriculum designed on Black history to help implement that into the public schools, because it's already been created. It just has to be utilized appropriately. But I just want to applaud you and your husband for taking such a bold action towards doing positive things for the community. And like you said, it'll help everybody.
Absolutely. I definitely agree. And thank you so much for the recommendation. We're definitely not trying to reinvent the wheel. There's so many amazing people who are doing and have been doing this work since the beginning of time. Right. We're trying to find areas where we can kind of go in and make that impact with the resources and relationships that we have. But yeah, there are definitely people who've already done this work, and we would love to, connect communities, connect networks, connect schools with people who are working on racial bias training, trying to create racial equity within schools. And specifically, in our studies, when we were researching a lot of this information, we noticed and we read through like Pew Center research studies that, racial bias can start as early as, a few months old, 8 to 10 months old, very, very young. And so, we're enacting a lot of these institutions, and in California specifically, ethnic studies curriculums into, high school classrooms. And our argument is, that by that time it's too late. You've already kind of developed whatever your understanding is of the world and your experience as well. I think it's so important for children who are in grades, pre-K through 5, to, have these conversations about race in a healthy way. We don't need to talk about Tulsa. If you want to, I'm sure there's a way to do that with fifth graders, but you do, again, for these arbitrary characters, like I mentioned earlier, Johnny Appleseeds, or these stories of, these children's books where the protagonists are white people that could easily be transitioned out with people of color, Susie's, Thomas, Charles, Devon, it doesn't matter. It's all about visibility and affirming identities and affirming these stories. So when I was speaking earlier to kind of us distilling down how we're going to do this, because it's a lot. It's definitely a lot. And I think that that's also important too. College curriculum, high school curriculum, middle school as well. But with the small team that we have, we're like, where can we go in? What kind of bandwidth do we have, you know, to make an impact? And we think that elementary school education is going to be key.
Awesome.
But I do appreciate that. I think you're absolutely right.
Speaking of Tulsa, and I don't want to derail this conversation, but it's 100-year anniversary for what happened in Tulsa. Yeah. And they are just now getting to the point of exhuming the bodies so that they can have proper burials. That to me was just, you know, eye-opening, that it took 100 years to do what was right amongst so much that was wrong with that situation. And they, you know, still don't want to really report on it and put it in the history books, but it happened. You know, you had over 10,000 African Americans that were homeless and displaced, and then hundreds that were just arbitrarily just killed and left for dead, and bodies never went to their families. They're now trying to exhume those after 100 years to give them proper burials. Only 2 people out of the entire group of people that were killed had a proper burial. I just thought that was just so, it was just so amazing that it took so long for them to finally recognize what happened there.
Yeah, it's just a disgrace, to be honest.
Yes.
You know, it's the how long it's taken for people to get here, how long it's taken them to get to this place. And even then, you know, sometimes I even question if the pandemic didn't exist, if the focus wasn't on this specifically, if we weren't made to watch this, you know, would we have had, I don't know, it's a gift and a curse, maybe. I'm so torn about that situation, you know, because
I think everybody got woke. And when they say, you know, how the young people say, get woke, I think everybody woke up and said, oh my gosh, you know, because it was, like you said, right there in your face, and you had to see it all day because you were on lockdown. You couldn't go to your galas or your functions or fly across the world or hang out with your crew. You had to sit there and watch it and literally let it penetrate your heart. So I think it woke America up to a place that, you know, we felt like this is awful, you know, finally. Well, half of America was already woke, let's say that.
Exactly.
And the other half wasn't.
Right. Absolutely. I agree. I hope it's sustainable. I hope that it's sustain. I hope the eyes stay woke for the rest of time, you know, and it's not just because we all had to watch that. You know, it was so interesting being coming from my experience, because it's not, you said 50%. I definitely think I'm of the 50% who's recognized what the realities are. But in having these conversations, even with close friends of mine who just didn't know any better, you know, I've had these conversations with them prior to 2020, and they just weren't hearing me. They were not, you know, they weren't ready to have the conversations. And so, you know, last year was a gift and a curse, in that all of a sudden they were ready to have these conversations that we have been prepared to, and quite frankly have already had with them for a significant period of time. So yeah, I hope it's sustainable.
Well, people like you and your husband are allowing it to be sustainable. So I want to say thank you for that. Go ahead, BG. I'm sorry.
No worries. You know, I was just thinking and listening to you all, and I applaud you too, because we know that our history is there, but we've got to help bring it out. Right. You know, some people say you should be satisfied with the month of February, but we have history all month long. We've been in this country's history ever since the first slave was brought over. And so I applaud you all for bringing the conversation. We've been discussing the Black Education Matters initiative that you've started, and I agree wholeheartedly. And so I want to know, if you could select another state in addition to California to start this initiative, which state would you pick that might have the biggest impact, and why would you pick that state?
All of them.
I know, right? I agree.
Yes.
I agree.
All of them. You know, we're lucky to be, California is not perfect. It's not perfect by any means, but we're lucky to be in this state to kick this initiative off, because we are definitely on the more progressive side of education reform. But there are, I mean, I don't know, that's a very, very tough question. And in thinking about that, you know, definitely want to be in not only places that are extremely diverse, but places that are progressive in their their educational frameworks, what they're looking to implement in schools, what they're open to trying, you know. Texas would be a great place to start, you know, but in my research, there's a lot of different steps that are taken in regards to public schooling education and just getting the appropriate school books instituted into, grades, high school and middle school. There's a whole process and a whole review process. And it doesn't look great for a lot of states. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, which is another reason why I kind of reverted, or why we reverted to children's books, because at those grades, like K-1, K-3, oftentimes these teachers are purchasing everything themselves, including school books. And so they have a little more autonomy in building their classroom curriculum in the way they want to. When it comes to high school, you have standardized tests that you need to kind of abide by, and the child needs to know a certain amount of material by the time they leave this grade. Not to say you couldn't implement inclusive curriculum, but it is tougher. Sorry, I'm going in circles, but to answer that question, cities that are highly diverse, but also really, really progressive with their, educational framework. So Philadelphia, DC, New York, Chicago, Cincinnati, maybe, Washington. I don't know how diverse they are, but I know they're pretty progressive. Well, in some areas, Seattle. Right. But I think it just, it's a huge feat to look, I think we did when we kicked this off, like, let's change everything, but I think we can just take baby steps, and we can start with our local schooling systems here in LAUSD. And, if people start to pick this up, and if it works in their classrooms, teachers will speak, hopefully it'll become a word of mouth situation. And then we can kind of, this can kind of spread into different communities, and who knows what that will lead to ultimately.
I was going to say spread like wildfire, but I don't want to say that to a person that live in California.
I got PTSD.
Crystal, I'm glad you mentioned Texas, because I'm in a group and we read to children in elementary. And so we make it a point to bring a book that shows people like us and people like the children in the classroom. And so even if the initiative doesn't spread to the other states, there's so many things that we as individuals and organizations can do following your lead with Black Education Matters, and make sure that kids hear and know the truth. So I appreciate that. And I'm with you. Every state ought to have it.
I would love to stay in contact, because we are looking to, again, we haven't worked out all the kinks yet, but we're looking to maybe create like a book program for teachers, grades K-5, so they can put these into their classrooms with Black protagonists for, again, just children's stories. And it really, it goes across the board. It's really about who's open to it and what kind of school districts are flexible in implementing new processes. But, I went through school and I didn't learn about Henrietta Lacks. I didn't learn about a lot of people in every single vertical. We're talking about English. I didn't learn about Black authors. We didn't talk about the Renaissance. We didn't talk about Black poets. Definitely didn't talk about Black music until I went to school for music. We didn't talk about any Black musicians outside of popular music and jazz. No Black classical music. We didn't know about the Moors. I didn't find that out through, I didn't find that out until, I did my own research post-graduation. And then all the other verticals as well, science, the math as well, the arts. Obviously, the focus is, we're looking at everything through a, really tight Eurocentric lens that we just accepted as normal, but that does a lot to your sense of self-esteem, sense of self-worth, and your abilities. And you got to have a really strong familial structure in your family to push you through that, because it's clear that we are, we're gifts. We are gifts, quite honestly. The fact that we've been able to accomplish what we have through what we've gone through is just tremendous. And with more assistance, more affirmations of our experience and our identities, I cannot even imagine what is possible for us.
I say Krys Wright run for office.
We'll see. We'll see.
Piggybacking off what you were saying, Beverly, and with your organization and reading, it takes a village and takes a big village. We all need to do our part. And not just your initiative that you're working on, Crystal, but in our own individual cities, in our own individual neighborhoods, and our own school, we have to make the difference. We have to speak out, and we have to do our part in order to because it's not, you and your husband are just two people, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we're not educators. We say that, like, we don't know. Like, please, we want to work with educators. We want to know with people we want to work with people who are experts at this, because people have been doing the work. I'd hate to, commandeer this as like, this is something we just started. Excuse me. This is something that we started ourselves. Like, no, this is work that we want to continue to do with our network and relationships. And how can we contribute to, this experience that a lot of people are going through, not just me.
Exactly. So to all our listeners out there, do your part. I always say, do your part to make things better.
Absolutely. And that can look like having difficult conversations, reading difficult books, just expanding your realm of comfort, I think is super, super helpful. That's definitely a start.
I think my phrase for the week is no tunnel vision.
No tunnel vision.
No tunnel vision. Yeah. Because that's what's wrong right now, is the tunnel vision of people and not thinking outside of their tunnel, So, but anyway, so we're going to flip the switch just a little bit, Crystal, because you are all of that in a bag of chips. Yes, you are. Don't shake your head. So I want to switch it to music. So you are a gifted and talented musician. And yes, and I, last year, I come across, and then Ashley informed me that you were going to be on Instagram with Bill Bellamy.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh my gosh, let me tune in. I was so excited and listened, and you were awesome, and the interview was great. But so how long have you been singing and writing music?
For a little while now. That was really, really cool to see you there. You're like, hey, Crystal, this is Vanita.
I know, I was on there.
I was like, Vanita, I know who you are. Stop. It was great. So I've been, as you know, of Vanita, and maybe not all the listeners know, I actually, what? I to be honest, I started singing probably pretty late. So it was in middle school is when I started. I would sing around the house. I didn't really come from a extremely musical household. My parents are not musicians. We played music around the house, but it wasn't, let's say, a very creative home. But I decided to take a choir elective. And from there, I kind of immersed myself into the space where I was able to express myself in a way that I hadn't before. And I really, really enjoyed it and decided to pursue that from that point on. So maybe 6th, 7th grade. And then started writing music probably in high school ish. And then recording music probably from college on.
Okay. Wow. I know when you and Ashley used to sing around the house and stuff, I thought, oh my gosh, at least I know where they are.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad singing. It was just like, to be honest with you, and I'm not, I just didn't think it would amount to anything.
Yeah. Yeah, you're like, they're just kids. They're just kids singing. I got you.
Just kids. So who are your influences?
Wow. I think it varies. I love neo soul. I love soul. So a couple of people that come to mind just off top would be Stevie Wonder, Shaka Khan, D'Angelo, Erica, Music Soul Child.
Jill.
Jill is just amazing. She's one of my favorites. I just, college was like just a neo soul experience for me. And I just immersed myself completely. But I love soul. Donny Hathaway is my favorite artist. I was introduced to Otis Redding through Lady V. Just seeing her, she had the anthology in her living room. And I was like, who is this man? So yeah, just traditional soul singers.
Okay.
And then that kind of branches out into, I love the UK's interpretation of soul. I think they're kind of purists about the art. And so I like a lot of UK soul artists. I like a lot of UK dance, but yeah, as a foundation, I think soul and neo soul is probably what struck the chord for me.
Right. So I know you didn't probably do any gigs last year because of COVID.
Well, I did the one Instagram one.
Right. Besides, not in person, but
Yeah,
yeah. But I know you do a lot of gigging probably in LA. So what's next for you as far as music goes, your music career?
Yeah, absolutely. I have no control over that, honestly. And I think that's something that I had to kind of let go of. I can only do what I can do. And for me, and what I can control, it's just making sure that I, continue to be creative, continue to be kind to myself, continue to support myself, and really, approach this life with a perspective through maybe a child's eyes. I think sometimes things can get very, very serious. And I understand that not everyone's experience allows them to do that.
Right.
So it can be very, very tough to maintain that a playful attitude about life. But I try to, because I get very serious. I can be very, very serious about this thing that is essentially, it is play, but when we talk about, I definitely have goals for myself, but I don't want to get so caught up in those goals that I forget, my reasons for doing this, which is really just to express myself and to find joy in being creative.
How many instruments do you play? How many instruments do you play?
Well, so I sing, I play keys, and I dabble on the bass. I just looked at my bass over here. I'm okay. I would never do a gig playing bass. I have done gigs playing piano, but I love the bass. I think it's all my favorite songs had fantastic bass players on them and just amazing bass lines. And I love it. I love it. Right? Another Blasian over there. She's just amazing. I mean,
she's
awesome.
She just keeps raising the bar.
I know. I can listen to her. Some nights I listen to her for like hours.
She's amazing. And this year has just been, she's been amazing for a while, but I love the recognition she got from the Super Bowl to the Grammy wins. And then she got an Oscar. I'm just like,
yes, exactly. Exactly.
She is awesome.
Really
you say
is.
You're just playing, but a lot of people make some great money and great careers come out of people just playing. Like you say, you call it play.
Right.
So
absolutely.
I have a question for you. If you could sing a duet with any artist, who would that be and why?
Stevie or D'Angelo.
Oh, yeah.
Stevie Wonder is at the top of my bucket list. I want to go see him so bad. I want him to perform again.
I just feel so blessed to be in a time where I get to be in his world.
Yes.
At the same time, to exist alongside this man's genius. And I think we take him for granted, a lot of people, not we, but a lot of people take him for granted. Yeah. I was just listening to Songs in the Key of Life, just a couple of days ago. I'll just like pop it on, every couple months or something like that, just to dive through. But someone said something so magical. I think it was Miguel, the singer, and he said, Stevie Wonder is amazing because he's able to package really complicated musical ideas in a happy meal for you, so there's a lot of amazing artists, let's say like Kamasi Washington or Jonathan Redmond, or a lot of people who are just really really musical and creative and just uber talented, and they want to, it's not a negative thing, but they display a lot of complicated musicianship through their art. And sometimes it's difficult for those who are not in that world to understand and to enjoy. Stevie Wonder is able to make music where non-musicians love it. And if you are a musician, his songs are hard to sing and his songs are hard to play. They're fun for musicians, his impact that he's made to this art, what he's been able to do as far as his career, and just I just at a general level, I just enjoy his music. I enjoy singing it. I enjoy listening to it. Yeah. I know that's maybe an easy one, but it's true. He's amazing.
Oh, his music is timeless, and he is timeless.
It is timeless.
He's a genius. He's just a musical genius.
We love Stevie Wonder.
It's just amazing what he's been able to accomplish. So, yep, he's my choice.
And I'd be right there in the audience while y'all singing.
I would just be crying. I'll just be crying, like, do, 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 do. Just
All right,
crying.
a few more bars, a few more bars. Go ahead.
You know?
Crystal, just talking with you lets us know how much talent you have and how creative you are. And so when Vanita told us about you, I started going out looking, let me find out about her since we're going to be talking to her. And I started looking through your Facebook post, and I saw one from last August, and it said, fighting sexism in a racist society, creating our own narrative. So could you share like an instance when you experienced sexism and how did you approach it?
That's a great question. I think, you know, when I was speaking to that, I was referring to, you know, this intersectionality that exists between, you know, being Black and being a woman. So all of us know that experience, and maybe being underestimated on two fronts. And so we kind of get the double whammy oftentimes, where we might feel like, you know, I was reading into kind of the civil rights movement and what was going on that front. And it was pretty, you know, yes, there was a lot of progress that was made in this front. But a lot of women weren't invited. You know, it was pretty much a boys' club. And then if you happen to be a woman who was not a straight woman or a cisgendered woman, those women were pretty much eliminated. But there were, you know, non-straight men who were a part of this group. So that kind of shows you in this pyramid or this tier who was placed at higher value. And so oftentimes I feel like we can be disregarded, discounted, and underestimated. And I feel like, you know, that happens across the board in a lot of experiences. Unfortunately, I don't know if I can call out one. I feel like it happens pretty often. In my creative life, I've simultaneously worked different jobs just to keep myself afloat. And so those worlds are very different, kind of working like in a corporate arena and then also working in a creative one. And I find that within the corporate space, you know, I gotta, the expectation
I
is,
understand.
right.
Cheryl's there now.
It's just, you know, it's just very, very interesting. And you can just be discounted in a lot of different ways. And I would be working in HR. So the focus of bringing in, you know, diverse people and focusing on equity across the board. I mean, that appeals to kind of two different initiatives that I'm in. You know, I definitely want to create opportunity for Black and brown people and women. And I also want to do that in education as well. And so where I can kind of make it, you know, where I can create opportunities for others, I think is really important for me. But yeah, as far as a specific example, to be honest, I feel like I face that through a lot of different experiences in my professional work, in my personal relationships that I have with people. So I just have to, you know, again, I have to remind myself of who I am and you know, what I'm here for, and the tribe of people who have come before me and accomplished tremendous things in spite of.
Unfortunately, it's become so normalized that you just learn how to cope and just not necessarily call out every single instance, which is unfortunate. And I think it's normalized because of what you're saying, the foundation of understanding the history of people of color in this country and the contributions that we've made. The lenses of people just look at you differently from their lens and their view of our society. But it has become normalized, so that's why you can't really pick out one, because it's just on a regular.
It is.
And you just learn how to cope. You keep on moving. You jump over it and keep going. And every now and then, if it's truly significant, in my case, I do call it out. I've had other people that work with me. It was so profound that they called it out, and they just happen to be white males that worked with me, and they called it out. So it was just that, you know, profound what had happened. So it's just become so normalized that, you know, we just cope and keep going, and learn how to, and I hate to say this, you learn how to become a chameleon. And a chameleon can blend in, like if it's on wood, you can see it blend into the wood. If it's on a sheet of paper, it blends into the sheet of paper. You learn how to adapt, and how to move within different circles in order to, first of all, maintain your sanity. Right. And second of all, to, you know, to be able to fit into the culture of the organization that you're working with. But I understand what you mean by you can't just pick one instance.
Right.
I mean, I think you spoke to it true. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Nope.
Did I cut you off?
Go ahead.
I just wanted to add that I think you spoke to it so transparently and truthfully, because that is the experience. You got to code switch depending on, you know, what kind of environment that you're in. And I'm really glad that you took those opportunities to speak up. You know, I mentioned earlier in the conversation, the 2020 was a unique experience because people were all of a sudden just ready to have these conversations, because I was ready to have them with you a few years ago, but you know, it went left very quick. And so, yeah, I think in an effort to maintain our sanity in our spirit, you know, and if you have the bandwidth to tackle every single instance of injustice and racism and sexism and everything else, please, by all means. But I think in an effort to do that, that
can wear you down. That can
your mental health is it's your mental health and your spirit and your joy is key. And so you got to make sure that and unfortunately, you got to be a chameleon. You got to balance all these things.
You got to choose your battles.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
What were you going to say, Beverly?
Oh, I was just going to say that I thought Crystal put it together when she said, you know, we face being a Black woman, Black and being a woman. And so that is a double whammy. And when you name all the other areas, it's like a triple or quadruple whammy. And it really must do something to our psyche, even though we have to, like you said, find our own narrative. And so I like what you said, and you took me through how you thought through that. So thank you.
Yeah, I think, you know,
I heard one of this professor or a gentleman that actually speaks on Black history on a regular basis. I cannot recall his name. I have to look it up. But he called it as PTSD for African Americans, not post-traumatic stress disorder, but post-traumatic slave disorder. Yes, coming out of slavery, a lot of stuff that we have not actually processed through the generations still plague our lineage. So I was like, wow, that was profound to me, because I had never thought of it in that way, you know, post-traumatic slave disorder, in the history of slavery and what the imprint that it has put on us, even though it's been years, you know, and neither of us or our parents, you know, were in slavery, or even in my case, my grandparents weren't in slavery, but that mentality has been processed through the generations by us also, and also of course by the people that had enslaved us. So it's just amazing that like you said, we're so resilient that we've been able to rise above, even with all the odds stacked against us.
100%. And I think that, you know, that is just trauma. And one of the emerging kind of, I don't know if it's a science or if it's a part of maybe psychiatric services or sorry, that's probably not it. Please cut that. But definitely a science, is the study of epigenetics, which is how trauma can literally change your cellular structure. And then you pass that on generationally. And so you are quite literally carrying the trauma of your ancestors, and you wonder why you are triggered by certain things, but other people are not, why you feel tense all the time, why you feel anxious, why you, you know, react a certain way to certain things, and so on and so forth. You know, I think that study is so fascinating because it makes complete sense. You know, we're just living in as Black Americans, I feel like we live in such a, and just Black people in general, we live in such a very unique reality in that you are existing in a space that you can't speak about. My husband, who's a basketball fan, was just talking to me about Kyrie Irving or some basketball player who talked about some issue with Boston. And he was like, I'm fine with Boston as long as they don't, as long as they're not racist, or he mentioned something about this. So now I guess the city of Boston and the team is in an uproar about this.
Oh, wow.
And so I don't know. I thought we all knew America was racist, and it's a racist country. The foundation is built off of racism as an economic vehicle for national success. And then the city of Boston, I don't know it to be a very diverse and progressive place. And so he mentioned this, and I thought it was a weird but very normal place that a lot of Black people find themselves in, and that this is the experience, but if you speak to it, you're being racist. But no, this is just my experience.
I just left Boston and I had a great time myself in Cape Cod and Martha's Vineyard, had fun.
Okay, good.
I truly understand that we cannot, and I hate to say it, but we're not at liberty, shall I say, to speak our truth. And that's the reason I always tell people, in corporate America, it's the Kenny Loggins song, Kenny Rogers song for me, know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. You have to be extremely tactful on what you say and who you say it to, because everybody's not going to understand what you just said and why you just said it. So you have to be
everybody's
careful.
not going to want to hear it either.
That's true.
They don't want to accept it.
No,
that's true.
No.
Right.
Absolutely. And that brings us all the way back around to this interesting time where people were ready to, hear you and have these conversations, which has been in my experience pretty abnormal. So, I hope moving on, we can kind of make a little bit of progress in that direction. Maybe it's more like a pendulum. Last year we were ready to go. We were ready to fight for the cause. We were ready to have these conversations, and perhaps it might swing back a bit, but hopefully it's a little bit, we're closer to the direction that we need to be in from this point on.
Right. Wow, Crystal, I could probably sit here and talk to you all night, but we're not going to do that. But I want to switch gears for a quick second. I know that your picture was featured on a billboard in Los Angeles. Can you tell us what it was about and how you felt when you first saw it?
Yeah, it was very, very exciting. I didn't know that was going to be a thing. So it's actually completely separate. I do some like modeling work on the side, and there was a cosmetic company that I did a small gig with like a couple months prior, and I just went to the gig and they put some makeup on me and they took some pictures, and I left and I was like, great, wonderful. And then one day I went out and I just came from some workout class, like a yoga class, and I went to go get a smoothie in that neighborhood and turned left and saw this billboard, and it was really, really cool. It was really, really cool. I had no idea.
So for all our listeners, go and look it up. It's a gorgeous billboard. You look beautiful on there.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know if it's still up, but it was pretty cool to see for that time.
Yeah. But it's on social media, which is how I saw it. Yes.
So it's saved. It's etched in time.
I know, right?
Just like your beauty, etched in time.
All right.
Thank you.
That's cool.
So if I'm gonna go back to Black history, because I know you're big on, Black education matters. If there was anyone in Black history that you could have lunch with, who would that be and why?
And don't say Stevie Wonder, because I'm having lunch with him.
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
Anyone in Black history?
Anyway,
I know you've done research on different, people within Black history. Who, stuck out to you when you did that research?
You're intrigued with that you would like to sit down and pick their brain.
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, it's really a lot of people who are currently living.
That's okay.
Who are doing a lot of great work. So there is this one girl, her name is, oh my goodness. It's in my room right next to me over here. I want to like reach for it, but
You can reach for it.
yeah, her name is like Andrea Marie, and she essentially speaks to, again, this like the intersectionality that exists. You know, I mean, I'm fascinated by, you know, what our experience has been as Black people, but I'm also fascinated by what the experience has been for Black women, and how that applies. And she spoke to it so eloquently, and did such a great job in kind of speaking to how to maintain our peace and our joy, but still but still kind of speaking to the historical relevance of what this experience has been for Black people, and how how it hasn't necessarily been perfect in a lot of ways, and we are still trying to, you know, figure out how we can create space for ourselves. You know, I mentioned the civil rights movement that happened. I don't need to tell you when that happened. I mentioned the civil rights movement in this conversation. And then we also have the women's rights, you know, movement that happened, you know, just a handful of centuries ago. And, you know, even within, you know, within that own movement, there was a lot of, you know, middle class to wealthy Caucasian women who were kind of leading this movement and kind of pushing out or pushing a lot of Black and brown people to the fringes, you know, of that movement, who experience the same things, and perhaps on a deeper level, because it is multifaceted in that sense. And then if you want to bring in gender or sex, or not sex, but gender and sexual orientation, that adds a lot of other things as well. So sorry, I'm drawing a blank on her name. I'll look it up right now, but she's really, really fantastic. And just any other women who contributed to, you know, this movement that we're making as Black women.
Awesome, awesome.
Cool.
My group, of course, would be the mathematicians on Hidden Figures.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
What a great
To
movie.
know that there were other left brain, you know, computer science, you know, mathematician, nerdy people like me out there. That would have been amazing to me as a young girl to know that, even though I went down that path not knowing what I was gonna, you know, how it was gonna end up for me, which it ended up great. But it would have been awesome to have read about those women in history, in the history books, you know, would have inspired me even more to go down that path.
100%, 100%. And her name, sorry, it's coming back to me. Her name is Adrienne Maree Brown. But anyone who's doing, you know, work in regards to racial equity, class equity, and gender equity for Black women, I'm all for. But yeah, this was, you know, this was another example that you know, we discussed as far as what was remiss, I guess, within our education, you know. And I went to school some time ago, and I won't date myself, and I don't know how much better it is now. But I definitely didn't learn about the women from Hidden Figures. I didn't learn about Henrietta Lacks. I didn't learn about Black classical musicians. I didn't learn about a lot of stuff. And I think that would have encouraged us to know what our you know, sometimes you need to see it. Unfortunately, yes. You know, not everyone can be a trailblazer in that way, you know, and that's not a negative thing. Some, you know, but that encouragement of like, oh, you know what, I can go down this vertical. I can be a Black scientist. I don't need to be whatever the stereotype is of musicians and athletes and whatever else that looks like. And I think we're seeing that now. You know, there's so many beautiful opportunities. We have Simone Biles out here breaking. Just, you know, people out here is doing amazing things.
Yes.
And when we see that, it just it encourages us, you know, it affirms us. And it's beautiful. I wish I would have had that in school.
Yes.
We do too. We do.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know, these kids now, they're just so smart. So smart, so gifted, so eloquent in their speech, so brave. I look at these, one of the girls who led some of the protests after I think it was the Parkland shooting in Florida. I mean, these are just kids who went through a very traumatic experience, and they are just speaking to their experience with so much power and strength. I was like, I don't even know if I was like that when I was her age. I don't know if
I wasn't. I know I wasn't.
No. So, you know, I just feel so encouraged by the youth and what they're going to be able to do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But Crystal, it's me again. I just love your positive attitude. And I tell you, I looked at a lot of your posts and a lot of things that you had on Facebook and Instagram, and they were all so encouraging. And so where does that wonderful spirit that you have, even if you're talking about racism or injustice or inequality, but you still have that positive view. And so where does that positive spirit come from? She's shaking her head.
I don't, you know, it's almost like I got to tell myself these things, you know, even when I don't necessarily believe it. I think that perhaps it comes from my dad a little bit. My dad was he was a very joyful, gleeful, happy, positive guy. So I think on a cellular level, perhaps that's where it comes from a little bit. But I think that, I don't know, that it's just truly what I believe is a value. I believe in people. I believe in this experience, you know, and I believe that, you know, we are all here for a purpose, and however we can contribute to that purpose, even if you're not necessarily doing something out here with the community, but you living in your experience encourages someone else. I think that that's what we're all here for. And so I try to disregard all the garbage and the noise. It's very, very hard. I'll be honest with you. It's very hard, especially in this world of social media and constant comparison and everything else. I feel lucky that I didn't really grow up in that. You know, I was kind of an adult by the time it really took off. You know, I was already in college when Facebook came around. But I think I try to speak to myself. I try to continue to encourage myself with, you know, how I speak to others. I think it's kind of cyclical, and it's kind of like reaping what you sow, you know, encouraging others, instilling positivity in others, instilling love in others. I think that will come back to you tenfold. I believe that.
Right. Well, Crystal, keep doing that, okay? Because you do have a beautiful spirit. And so, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And so my question that I love to ask our guest is, when you were a little girl, what did you want to be when you grew up?
It's a good question. How little are we talking?
Little.
Okay. You know, so I would say after 7th, 8th grade, I definitely was like well into music, very excited about it, wanted to be Mariah Carey, still love Mariah Carey. I know she's petty, but I love her. And when I was a kid, like a child, I used to write. Do you guys remember Highlights magazine? It was a magazine maybe in the dentist office. Yeah, so I would write to Highlights magazine. I wanted to get like my stories in there. So I would write books over the summer, not books, but, you know, stories, children's stories about whatever, you know, came to mind. So I think that's what I wanted to do when I was really, really young. I did that a lot. And I wrote to a lot of, like, I think I tried to write to like the Disney Channel. It's like, this could be a great television show. And so yeah, looking back on it now in retrospect, I definitely wanted to pursue something creative. You know, I definitely wanted to express myself in however I could, you know. But yeah, either a writer or a musician.
Okay.
You don't know, the phase 3, phase 4, you know, I might be out here as a New York Times bestselling author. Who knows?
I love it. And I'll come to your book signing.
Thank you.
And I'll also be your agent and
please.
Whatever else you want to pay me to do.
I will need it. I will need it.
Well, Crystal, I just want to say you are bold, vocal, and most definitely passionate about God's people. And I love that about you. I just want to say that I'm very proud of the woman that you have grown up to be. You are inspiration to us here at the island, and I'm sure to our listeners. Keep doing what you're doing. I know your mom is proud of you, and I know your father is smiling from heaven. I know this.
Thank you very much. I really, really appreciate you guys bringing me on here and just taking the time to chat with me. And I am no different from anybody else who was out here who was doing this work or just living in this experience. You know, you all have brought so many just insights that are specific to, you know, what your experience was. Beverly, Cheryl, Lady V, you know, we've all gone through this collectively. And so, as you mentioned, Lady V, you know, whatever we can do without being tunnel vision, whatever we can do on the day-to-day to kind of push the needle forward is you know, will benefit everybody ultimately, including ourselves and our immediate families, but it'll benefit us as collective women and collective Black people. So I really appreciate getting the opportunity to speak to it. I'll continue to push this initiative forward in this nonprofit. If anyone is listening who is an educator themselves and can provide any kind of guidance or instill any wisdom for us, or has any network or connections, we've met so many fantastic people through this journey and this process. We would love to connect with you and love to learn more and encourage ourselves and educate ourselves on the system that we're looking to make an impact in.
And so how can people reach out? Is there websites or social media? Just how can people reach out to be of assistance or to do their part?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So at the moment, we are looking to build the website and get established as a 501(c) nonprofit. Right now, the immediate channel would be social media. We've had a lot of people reach out to us directly and, connecting us with educators, connecting us with people within their network. Ela and I, we did a presentation for the mayor of Carson, which is a city here in Los Angeles, to find some kind of a equitable educational program that we could maybe implement in their schools. So there's just been a lot of progress on that front. So if anyone has, anything really, wisdom, connections, relationships, or anything that they can contribute that might help us out, we would greatly appreciate it and would be absolutely open to it.
That's awesome. Well, ladies, like I said, I could be here all night.
Yes, this
Me
was
too.
awesome.
Me too.
Yes.
Yeah, so we want to thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule and
This
away
is my
from
pleasure.
your husband to hang out with us at the island. You are welcome back anytime, and you can definitely come to San Antonio anytime.
You might find me at your front doorstep.
Please, please.
So I'm gonna say it here on Kitchen Island Tea, that when Crystal drops her next song, or when she drops her first book, we are going to have her back to promote it.
Please,
Go ahead and
please.
speak it into the atmosphere.
Please let
And
us
thank you
know.
for
We
saying
will
yes,
definitely,
Crystal. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
so we know you're coming back. We know it already.
We'll definitely put you out there. We're in 18 different countries. We are all over the United States. Yes. And so you're welcome back at any time.
Absolutely. I love it. I would love to come back. I was definitely working on music through the pandemic, and we'll continue to do that. So I will let you know as soon as something's ready.
Please. We want to be your first.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, Crystal. Well, thanks again for dropping by the island, and we will see you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The pleasure's all mine.
Thanks, Crystal. We love you.
We love you. Love you, Crystal. All right. How did it go, y'all?
Yeah.
Wow, that was
wonderful. It was
Thank
wonderful.
you guys. That was so much fun.
This man was eavesdropping the whole time.
Here he is.
There he is.
Awesome.
It was good. I'm sorry. I maybe talked a
was.
little bit too much. I apologize.
No, it was
No,
you
no,
run
it
for
was
office.
great.
That's all
Okay.
I'm gonna say. I can just see it now. We need
Okay.
people like you in our
Mhm.
state capitals and in our House of Representatives, senators, your local government, because you
Yeah.
have such a positive attitude and such a drive, and the way you speak with passion. And that's what
Mhm.
people need to see and feel, not just a normal politician, but passion.
Yeah.
Not sure if you're even thinking about running, but that's just a thought.
We'll
Well,
work
you
with
know.
you.
Who knows? Yeah, thank you. This life is not over. Who knows? What's left to unfold. I would never count it out. I would never count it out. Through everything that I've seen in life. I'm more amazed by these everyday people, who come out here and just show what they're made of, and become leaders within their community. And I think we can all do that, big or small. Not everyone needs to be at the top of this pyramid. It really takes a tribe, and everyone has a part.
Right.
And so I'm really just trying to do whatever it is that I can do with the resources that I have, and everyone has their own resources and their own relationships. So
It kind of reminds me of when you take a pebble and drop it into the lake. It might make the smallest ripple, but that ripple spans all the way out.
oh yeah,
And
Oh,
that is
yes.
something when, you know, like you said, if you just start in your community, you don't have to be the big boss or the head honcho in charge. Just start in your community with what you can do. And that's a rippling effect.
Think about these little ants that are just, you know, walking across that bridge with a little piece of leaf, taking it back to their tribe. If you took one snapshot, you're like, oof, I don't know if he's gonna make it. And then you, and then you zoom out and you see everybody's aligned. You know, that's power. There's power in the people. There's power in numbers.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I think if we all kind of come together and do what we need to do, we can definitely, you know, make impact however we need to.
Exactly.
But yeah, I'm glad that resonated with you. And I'm really, really thankful to be here and to speak to it. And this is nothing you guys don't already know about. So I just really appreciate getting the opportunity to speak to your listeners about it.
Yes. And so one last thing from me. So Crystal, be prepared for me to say, okay, you're coming to San Antonio and have you come out here and you speak to the women at our church. Okay.
I would love to.
I'm very serious.
Okay.
I'm very serious.
Okay, I would love to. I mean, again, I'm not an educator, so if someone checks me on something, I don't know. I'm just going off of what I feel. This is how I feel.
Perfect.
And that's what we want. That's what we need. That's what the world needs, is people that are passionate and are realist and just.
But that's how a movement starts. The passion, like you said, Vanita, and the realist within a person. A movement does not start when a whole bunch of people, you know, just move all at one time.
Yeah.
It's usually a person that gets a passion and an idea and a drive, and they connect with other people with the same passion.
Right.
But it starts with an individual.
Yes.
I agree.
Yes.
I absolutely agree. Yep, I would love to. I would love to.
Okay, Crystal, I'm gonna let you go.
And thank you, I know it's kind of late over there too, so thank you for doing this.
Okay. These other two ladies are retired, so they be up at.
I'm working every day. I'm working, Cheryl.
And I know I know your husband hasn't met me, but let him know I'm rooting against the Lakers.
Oh no, I will not let him know that.
No,
I will not let him know any of what you
She like the Clippers because she love.
I don't like the Clippers either.
Wait, who's your team?
Well, we live in San Antonio, and since the Spurs are out of it, I'm going for Doc Rivers and the 76ers because I hate that they fired him.
Yeah.
But now he's going nah, because look, my team's in first place and I'm in the playoffs and I got it.
There you go. There you go. Scrappy. No, my husband's brother actually reached out to him last minute tonight and they're like, hey, do you want to go to the Lakers game at the Staples Center? So he left.
Nice.
Yeah, he left at 5:30.
He's at
That's on my bucket list.
He's at the playoff game. Yeah.
Oh, man. Were you gonna go with him?
No, I don't really. It would be a wasted ticket. I'm okay just sitting at home. I don't know if you could see my dog. He's here somewhere. Herschel, he's down there.
He was quiet.
He was, he's right over here. Let's see.
He was.
Herschel.
Herschel.
Oh, he's taking a nap.
Yeah, he's like, leave me alone.
What? He just raised up and laid back down.
Yeah, leave me alone.
Chilling.
Yeah, but no, I will not tell him that. I will never tell him that. But yeah, I would love to see you in person. I know it's been so long. I'm sure Ashley told you we met up now years ago. It's crazy.
Yeah.
How long ago that was, but I'm really glad that we're still all in communication.
She's gonna be coming out there. I talked to her yesterday or day before. She's gonna be coming to LA in June.
Okay.
She's gonna be on General Hospital.
Okay.
So she's coming back out there for that gig. She just started back with HBO yesterday.
Okay, amazing. Well, she's working with HBO? Oh, amazing. My husband used to work for HBO, so that's
really
cool. Yeah, he just accepted another position literally like a couple weeks ago, but he worked for HBO for like 7 years.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
So, Crystal, a quick question.
Yeah.
When Patrick came out there, how was he? How was it?
Great. It was awesome.
Really? Did he talk?
Yeah, I feel like I hope I did. I feel like I have a great relationship with Patrick.
Well, I was shocked he went.
Yeah.
And I saw pictures of all y'all together and I was like, did he even talk to anybody?
No, it'd be different if me and Patrick probably met as adults.
Right.
You know? But yeah, we all just reminisced about stupid movies we watched as kids and sleepovers and stuff. And yeah, Patrick, I think he had a good time.
No, he did. He did.
Okay, good. Yeah, we had a good time.
I was just shocked he even went out there.
Oh no, it was great. I loved it.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. We're letting you go. For real.
All righty. Thank you guys so much.
Thank
You ladies
you.
were
We'll see
beautiful.
you again.
And the episode's gonna be aired on Saturday. I'm gonna
Oh,
release
great.
it Saturday morning.
Okay.
I'll send you guys a link like I always do. And I thought it went great.
It
I
did.
did too. I did too.
It was great.
All
All
right.
right, I love y'all. I'll
Love
chat
you
to
too.
y'all
Good
later.
All
Good night,
right.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Stop it, Cheryl.